Well, hello again. It has been a little bit some time since my last video, which I guess would be Toll the Hounds review that I did. And I am now here because I finished book 9 of Malazan Book of the Fallen, Dust of Dreams. Book 9 by Stephen Erickson. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of go through my um, review, how I felt about the book, how I feel about it, um, kind of give my overarching thoughts and stuff. Again, like with all these reviews, I can't talk about everything. For one thing, I don't remember everything, right? So I can't talk about everything in this book series or in this book alone. I'll talk about some things that criticisms and things I liked and like. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like if you made it to book 9, you're probably gonna read the next and last book of the series. So I'll be very surprised if you don't read the next book. But I've heard cases of people who are like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm done and stop reading after book 9, which is crazy to me because I actually really enjoy book 9. I think it's not like high up there in terms of my favorite books in this series, but it's not top 5, but it's not last. It's in the middle. It's in the middle, and I'll get into why I feel that way and everything. Um, but before I get into that, I do have to kind of give like a content warning. Um, we will be talking about sexual violence and sexual abuse, which I know I've sort of talked about that a lot in my other reviews, and sexual violence exists in all these Malazan books. But I would be going into a little bit more detail than I normally do for a particular scene. If you've read this book, you know what scene that is and what chapter that is. So I'll give another warning later on if you don't want to you know hear about that or don't want to listen to that. That's totally fine. But I'll give another like spoiler or warning um, before I dive into that. But before then, Book 9, Malazan, Dust of Dreams. So, where did I even begin with this book? So essentially, the start of this book, there is this author note by Stephen Erickson himself saying, like, did you really think I was going to be able to finish this book series in just one book? So, what essentially that means is that books 9 and 10 are essentially one big book. And that's kind of how Stephen Erickson has sort of, wanted to be, and that's how the fandom sort of sees it. Like books 9 and 10, I should say, books 9 and 10 are just one big book. They're just kind of split down the middle. Book 9 is the first half, book 10 is the final half. And it kind of reads like that. Book 9 definitely reads like, okay, this is half of a story. Um, it ends on a massive cliffhanger. Um, which I'm not like it definitely does not take the traditional Malazan route. A lot of like themes and a lot of um, character arcs and developments. You don't really get that in this book because it's the first half of a book. So I imagine a lot of those plot threads and a lot of those themes, thematic themes, a lot of those character development, we're gonna see that in the Crippled God. Is my guess, is my hope. Um, But that being said, that didn't really curb my enthusiasm for this book. Oddly enough, I enjoyed it more than Reaper's Gale. In many ways, it kind of made me appreciate more Reaper's Gale because Dust of Dreams is actually picking back up a lot of those plot threads from Reaper's Gale that started off in Reaper's Gale that we now have in Dust of Dreams. So, in some ways, it kind of made me like look back to Reaper's Gale and was like, oh, okay, I see now what we were doing with it. That's it, which I do like, which I feel like on reread I would appreciate that a lot more because I would have a better context of where the story is going and I could like find smaller details like that more interesting and more like little Easter eggs and tidbits, I guess. Um, but yeah, I really really enjoy this book. I don't know. I've reading online on reviews and ranking scores and stuff. This tends to rank pretty low on people's lists. Some people rank this as their least favorite book. Even worse than Guardians of the Moon. I find this book, I enjoy this book more than Guardians of the Moon, and more than Reaper Scale for that matter. Um, and for the reason that is not only just because it's half a book and there's no like real conclusion to a lot of these plot threads in here, at least in this book. But in traditional Malazan and Steven Erikson fashion, he tends to kind of just throw new plot lines and new characters at you. And while I can understand that in like the first, second, third, maybe even, I mean, he did to us in the fifth book. In the fifth book, we're introduced to a whole new continent. Um, I can see that being very grating in the ninth book, where it's kind of like, hey, like you've made me love and appreciate these characters you've already made me read about for 8 books at this point. Why are you giving me new characters to know and to care about? You know, so I can understand from that point of view. Like, that's frustrating, right? You're putting a lot of trust into your readers to care about new characters in your penultimate book, you know. So it puts a lot of trust into us, and um, look, it really kind of comes down to like whether or not you like these really 3 different plot lines. The first one is probably one of my favorite. It's the Kachane Jamal plot line. First of all, I mean, my God, I love the Kachane Jamal. I could read a whole history book about the Kachane Jamal. Oh, wait, you mean sentient dinosaurs with swords for arms that have a whole civilization, and they have a religion, they have a hierarchy, they have like a cities and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, give me give me more of that. And they talk telepathically. Oh, okay, yeah, like I'll like just give me more of that. And it's crazy that like I mean, we saw them in book 3 for the first time, but they were like undead, so like zombified, I guess. So that didn't really quite count. But here, and we've gotten like tidbits throughout the series of like the change them all, and they're like them as a species and as a race. But now we get we see them, we dive into them, and this is where it kind of ties a little bit with like Reaper's Gale, because in Reaper's Gale we saw that Red Mask had 2 that could change them all following him, Goth Monk and Sack Churrock. The fact that I know those names like that, like the fact that I just know those names is crazy. Goth Mac and Sack Churrock, like what? Um, yeah. So we we get introduced with Caliph, who is the destriant of the Kachane Jamal. And we later find out through the POV of one of Kachane Jamal that Red Mask um, was their mortal sword, who like in their eyes failed them, so they killed them and stuff. And that like just completely recontextualizes Red Mask's storyline for me, Reaper's Gale. Because now I saw that as like I don't know. I saw that storyline as like, this is Red Mask. Who is Red Mask? Why is it so important? But no, that was a Change Them All storyline, and that completely recontextualizes that storyline for me. And I think that's kind of cool. I think that's pretty cool. So, long story short, the Kaching Jamal are tired of getting their asses kicked. They've been kind of mollywopped throughout the entire, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years. They've been a species by, like, the Tis Andy. They've been betrayed. They've been killed off by, like, the short tail, the Kaching Naruk, who are sort of their, like, cousins, I guess. Um, so yeah, it's like they're tired of getting their asses beat, and so they're like, "Hey, Destriant, we need you to go find us a mortal sword and a shield anvil, so we can like win battles and win armies and stuff like that." And that's what she kind of goes off to do. Now, you might be thinking, where is this going? Why am I learning about? I mean, I like the dinosaurs, but why am I learning about this? So that's one of the plot lines. I personally like that plot line. I love the Change Them All. Like I said, I could read a whole like I could just read a whole like history book about the Change Them All. It's just a fake history about these dinosaurs and just how they've like I don't know survived over the years. This made up history. Very cool stuff. I really like it a lot. The next storyline, and these are the kind of like the two controversial storylines from what I can see, is that you have what I think this is their official. I don't know if these are official names, but this is what I call. There's the snake storyline, and then there is the ghost storyline. I guess there's another one too, the shake. So there's a snake, like the animal with the snake, then shake, like Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. And then there is the ghost storyline. And this, again, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but this is all spoilers. You know, like so, like this is book 9 spoilers. You're right. These are all. I'm spoiling everything up to book 9 at this point. Um, so so the snake storyline. The snake is so essentially what's going on is that it is a refugee train line of children. They're all children. There's no adults, and they're sort of just kind of going through this desert and trying to run away from something. Now we don't know what they're running away from for most of the book. We do find out in the end of the book, but for most of the book, we'd have no idea what the fuck they're running away from. They're just kind of running. And the thing is, they're children, so they talk in this very, I don't know, very like, I'm not non-committal, but it's very like vague, like because they don't really understand it. So like the way they're describing it makes it more confusing to me. Um, like they call them they're running away from who they call the quitters, and they're like, oh, we're running away from the quitters, and like who the fuck are the quitters? We eventually find out that they are not quitters, but they're inquisitors, like investigators or whatever, and they're children, so they don't know what the fuck that means, so they call them the quitters. So little things like that can kind of, I don't know. It's a very like trippy, it's very melancholy. It's like you know, it's called this book's called Dust and Dreams. All right, like this is not a happy story, and we'll get into why later on. But essentially, you have this whole train line of children who are going through this desert. We don't even really know where they are again until like later on in the book is when it's kind of revealed like okay, like they're here. um so yeah, you're there's a few characters, but the main character is Ray's Badal, who is sort of like the leader, I guess you could say, of this train line of refugee children. Who she talks in poems, like she just talks in poems. Everything's a poem with her. Like she just kind of like, it's like Badal, where are we going? The the dust of our dreams and the death in our like I don't know. Like she just it's always about death. It's always about words. Like words have power to her, and words mean something. That's sort of like her whole shtick. I'm assuming like a lot of her poems are just kind of like revealing the end of the series. Like, oh well, like this is what's gonna happen. Like, but oh, what are we doing? And then like she just tells you how the book's gonna end. Like, it's both through like poem form. I imagine that's gonna be more meaningful to me on reread. On first read, it just kind of went over my head. Like, I don't know, man. Like, okay, like sure, whatever you say. Yeah, you got it, Badal. You got it. And you know, was it my favorite storyline? No, but I think, and we'll get into like the payoff of that storyline later on in the book. But I'm sure like we get probably one payoff. I'm sure there's gonna be another sort of payoff with it in Crippled God. But yes, that's kind of the snake storyline. So they're a refugee train line of children who are just wandering through this desert. We don't really know where they're running towards or who they're running from, and we don't even really know where they're going. They're just kind of wandering around, and this desert is horrible. By the way, it is described as a glass desert. So their like feet are getting lacerated. They're getting cuts. There's um like man-eating locusts that are attacking them. The kids are they're so hungry that they like use the bodies of other dead children as bait to lure in the locusts so they can kill the locusts and eat it is a dark book. Like this is a dark book. Okay, like it's dark. It's a dark book. That's the snake storyline. There's then the ghost storyline, which is a very like just sort of like trippy sort of storyline that I don't like. Even after finishing the book, I don't know if I completely understand what was happening, what was going on. But essentially, you have it's later on revealed. So you have this ghost who we don't really know who this ghost is until like not maybe like a third of the way through the book. Maybe it's later revealed that this ghost is Ikariam, who we saw in book 7 died or didn't die or whatever. This Ikariam opened up his machine, shook the whole Lethrus continent, destroyed parts of Lethrus and everything, and now we see Ikariam as a ghost, and he's wandering around following these other like random people who have different names, but a few of them are people we know. It's Taxilian, Arotis Heavenoff, which is another name I did not know that I would remember. Arotis Heavenoff. um, Featherwitch is also another character. These are all characters that I assume died, and I'm pretty sure did die. We saw the errant choke Featherwitch in Reaper's Gale, so I a little bit confused why she was here. And again, is another one that was like very trippy, very like it feels very like fourth wall breaky, very metaphysical in a sense, because like you have Ikariam who is a ghost looking at these other people who I assumed are also ghosts, but they like interact with the physical world in ways that ghosts don't. And but then like sometimes like Ikariam would like look away and then come back, and then like Feather Witch would have like someone would have like a shovel, and it's like the Carm's kind of like, oh, did they always have that shovel? Yeah, whatever, I don't care. So it's like, what's happening? Was their shovel always there? Was it not always there? What's happening? Who are what are we doing here? Um, so yeah, I think that's kind of like those two are the two I feel like the most controversial storylines in this book. Where like if you don't like those storylines, you're gonna have a hard time. If you don't like the change them all, you're gonna have a hard time in this book. Um, and then and then you have the Sheikh, which is sort of this like they're somehow related to the Tis Andy. They're like Tis Andy, sort of human related blood. And Jan Tovis or Twilight is trying to take her people back to Carconis, which was like the original homeland of the Tis Andy, which we get snippets of that in book 8, Told the Hounds, but we don't like we get a lot of flashbacks about Kirkonis. To be honest, a lot of those storylines when you start going back to like 100,000 years into the past, I don't know, my brain kind of mentally checks out for a lot of those scenes and all of those chapters. I'm just kind of like I'm here for the ride. Tell me what's important, and I'll try to remember it. So you know, and the thing about Twilight is that it's not that I don't like her. I just don't know why do I need who is what is why is she important? Why is this whole thing important? And it's because we meet Twilight in like book 5, and she's just like a random soldier. Like she's just part of the Lethrus army. She's just a random soldier. She doesn't really like. I thought she died in book 5, but then she comes back in book 7, where we find out that she's actually the long lost queen of the Sheikh. Who I'm like, okay, well whatever that means. And then book 9 is kind of her just like wandering around. They go to Carconis. I don't know. It just kind of like she just has. It just feels like I'm being told why she's important, instead of like her doing important acts, important things. I don't know. I just don't feel like she's done a whole lot in the story for me to care about. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't really know where the Sheikh fits into all this. I mean, I know now after reading book 9 what's going to happen. Um, I guess at least I know what we're setting up for. I guess. Um, but yeah, it's a little bit confusing. So those are kind of like the main storylines in Dust of Dreams. I mean, you also have like the Malazan, the like the Tavor stuff, and that was my bread and butter. That was my favorite shit in this book, the Tavor stuff. Tavor is a character. I can't wait to like reread this book series. I know that's years away from me ever rereading this book series, but just going back and rereading Tavor and like her as a leader and her decisions and being able to be like, this is why she. Oh, now I know why she did this, or now knowing what. Okay, now I know why she did that. Because in all honesty, I don't know why her army still supports her. she's kind of had blunder after blunder. You can argue that uh, Yagatan in book 6 was a blunder. Them coming to Letheris was also kind of a blunder. They thought they were going to become liberators, but no, they were seen as invaders. And then at the end of book 9, oh my! I mean, we'll get to the ending of this book. But then the ending of book 9 is crazy. Like it is like I haven't felt that hyped at the end of a book since like Memories of Ice. It is a crazy, crazy ending. Crazy in a good way, by the way. Like it's a good ending. It's a great ending. And there's a lot of other like smaller storylines and plot lines that I think are just kind of setting up for the Crippled God that I'm not going to spend too much time, uh, you know, detailing right now. Um, but yeah, so eventually all these storylines kind of, you know, culminate, and eventually is revealed that where do I even go? Where I guess I'll just kind of get into the ending of this book. I'll get into the ending of this book, and then yeah, we'll talk about the ending. So essentially, um, Tavor and her army, their mission is to go to this city called Kelras, where a bunch of folklore sail, or I guess harnessing the power of the crippled god to essentially destroy the world, essentially to kind of like cleanse the world, because the folklore sail are these like very we haven't really gotten a whole lot of information on them. We've gotten tidbits of the folklore sail, but the folklore sail are like they're very much they want peace, but like peace in the sense of like think about how like America dropped the atomic bombs on Japan, like and like how America kind of sees that as like, oh well, that's us, like we're like we're if we're killing people in order to save more lives, like it's sort of like the ends justify the means sort of thing. Like they feel like, well, the humans are abominations, so the only way to like save the world is by killing humans. Essentially, it's like kind of their at least how that's how I sort of interpret it. I might be wrong in that, but that's how I sort of see it. Like they're like they describe themselves as like pacifist, not very pacifist, but like they're peace. They're all about peace and keeping balance and keeping harmony. Because even some of their names are like some of the name. I think one's named Serenity and one's named Harmony, and but it's like very like it's very contradictory because like they're always are like fighting, right? They're always are like, I'm Serenity, I'm gonna kill you now, and it's like very much like what are you talking about, you know? So I think that's kind of the folklore sales deal. So later on, it's kind of revealed that Tavor might actually want to free the crippled god. Now here's the thing about the crippled god. Here's the thing about the crippled god. The crippled god is such a confusing character in this book series. Even though he is, in my understanding of this book series, he is a big bad. He is a bad guy. He is poisoning the Warrens. He wants revenge on the gods. He wants to, his motives are still pretty vague, which is crazy to me. In the ninth book of a 10-book series, when like the final book is called the Crippled God. In fact, I'll pull it up right now. Oh, look at that. The Crippled God. Oh my god. Haven't started reading it yet, but haven't started yet. So, his motivations are still very confusing to me, the Crippled God. I'm still very confused about what does he want, what is he doing, who's on his side. It's very confusing to me. Because we don't really see much of him at all in the series. We see him a lot in book 3, we see him a lot in book 5. But beyond that, we don't really see the crippled god so much, and like all his plans get like thwarted. Like they get like he tried to get the whirlwind goddess on his side, defeated. He tried getting Felicity Younger done. He tried Rulad and Lether's army. Nope. Like he tried getting Karsa on his side. Nope. It's like every single thing this man wants to do does not work out. So I don't know if that's like a sign of like he's just desperate. Like maybe he's just finally fucking desperate, and he'll do whatever it takes to get free. I don't know. I have no idea where this series is going. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. I mean, I know what's going on. I know what's happening, but in that sense, I don't really, it's like a good mystery, I guess you can say. Um, So then eventually so Tavor and her army are walking through the waste. They're walking through the wastelands to get to the sea, and then out of nowhere, the Kachina Rook show up and kill a lot of them. It literally just happens like that. Like they're walking through the desert or the wastelands or whatever, and they're like, something don't really feel right here. It feels a little like, I don't know. We shouldn't be here right now, and like, everyone's kind of like, we need to leave. Like, what are you talking about? No, we need to go right now. Something's not right. And then the Kaching Naruk show up, and the thing is like, it's portrayed as this like complete accident. Because the thing about Malazan is that conversions and his conversions of power is like a very like plot thread, and I mean it exists in all media. Like power attracts power, and with that, that's sort of like it's like a kind of like a plot element device where like you you can just write you can have any sort of ending you want because power attracts power, I guess. Um, but in this sense, it's just like pure accident. The Kachane Naruk were looking for Kachane Jamal, and they happen to find the Malazans, and they just mm, fucking decimate the Malazans. It is like the Kachane Naruk, and I guess I should point out, and I guess I should point out that we've known about the Kachane Naruk all the way back in book three. We get like a name drop of the Kachane Naruk, but it's not really until this book is that we kind of see them in action, and we kind of see them like in the storm cloud that's like destroying a lot of the Bargas, that's destroying a lot of other armies and things like that. And we later on see the Kachane Naruk, and it is just like they wield these like clubs or hammers or whatever that can like shoot out electricity and shoot out these devastating lightning blows. They kill whole masses of the army and everything, and it's one of the most epic endings ever. And it's always an accident. It's all kind of shown as like just wrong place, wrong time, and it goes into this idea that like again that power draws power and stuff, but sometimes shit just happens. It's just accident. It's like, oh, like what like and it kind of makes you wonder, like sometimes ever just kind of like, I don't know, like you like I don't know, like you meet someone or at a party and you kind of think like, what were some of the steps that led us to this moment, right? If you break it down step by step, like I applied to school. I applied to Northeastern. I applied to school in Boston. I got into Boston. I lived in Boston. I go to school in Boston, and I meet someone at this. Like just the randomness of life sometimes can just be very mind-boggling, and sometimes life accidents work in your favor, and sometimes they don't, and it can be very tragic sometimes. Um, so a lot of people get killed. They retreat, and then I guess I'll kind of go into just a little bit of the I don't know snake, and so eventually it's revealed that the snake have been walking towards. They've been running from the Fork Row Sail, the snake like refugee train line. Children have been. We still don't really know exactly why or how or whatever, but we just know that they are running away from Procoro Sale, and they show up to the city of Glass, which this city was named Acarius. This is Acarium City. This is where like I guess a lot of his memories are being stored. The thing about Acarium is like he's very big into memories and big into time and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where that storyline kind of ends. Like they show up at this city, and it's kind of a Karium city where like he had his like kind of like utopia. Like Jagat lived here, Emas and Taimas have lived there, Katrina Jamal have lived there, and these are all races that at some point in time have been warring with each other, right? Um, so yeah, I think that's very beautiful. I think we'll probably get more. I doubt that's where that storyline is going to end. I think there's going to be more to that in a Purple God. And then the ghost storyline is where it gets very trippy. So essentially, you have it carves this ghost flying around all these other presumably dead people, I guess you could say. They end up in the Kachane Jamal Skykeep, where later on, I guess Ikarium takes his throne or something like that. It's very confusing. So it's like we run to Talak, we see the, I guess, memory or ghost of Talarak Veed, back in like book fucking 6 and 7, and we see him, and he kills off all these other ghosts, all these other memories, and that allows Karium to like ascend onto the throne here, where he commands this change from all Skykeep now. Keep up with me. like I know that was a lot, and a lot of that didn't make any sense because it still didn't make a lot of sense to me. Um, Eventually, the Sheikh, they end up back in Carcanis, where they kind of figure out that they are from the shore, which like so the whole Tis. So you have like the Tisleosian who are light, Tis Andy who are dark, Tis Edor who are like shadow. But then if you like think of it like her name's Twilight, and if you think of it as like on the shore, it's like she is kind of like the bridge between light and dark. She is like the like when you think of like the ocean and the land, the shore is kind of like the in between. They're like the shaker, like the in between light and darkness. I guess it's sort of what I'm kind of picking up with. So the Tisleosian, who we've seen a few of them throughout the series, they they had a big fight, a big battle with the Tis Andy, and now they're like behind this whole big like wall of light that's weakening, that they want that this breaking and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of I think that's kind of foreshadowing some sort of battle between the Sheikh and the Tisleosian. Is my guess is what's going to happen in the Crippled God. Um, yeah, I guess going back into a little bit with the Kachane Jamal storyline. So remember how they wanted a Destriant and well, they have a Destriant, a Mortal Sword, and how they want a shield anvil. Well, eventually, Stormy and Gessler are kidnapped, and they're made the mortal sword and shield anvil of the Chain Jamal. Remember when they went through that warren, that fire warren, all the way back in book 2, and they've been bronze and golden colors ever since book 2? Remember that? Well, that finally paid off in book 9. Wow. Okay. I fuck with it because like, and the ending of this book is crazy. Um, so the Malazans retreat. Stormy and Gus are recruited by the Kachane Jamal, well, kidnapped by the Kachane Jamal to help them lead their army to defeat the Kachane Naruk. And it is just these epic fucking these flying sky castles, multiple of them, shooting out lasers at each other. They're like on the back of dinosaurs running. They're fighting off the Kachane Jamal, fighting the Kachane Charuk. There's lightning bolt strike. It is fucking insane. This ending of this book is insane. It is so fucking good. It is such a great like, and it's like it just makes me kind of like think about like sometimes the technology in Malazan is just so crazy. Like you have like majority of scenes in Malazan are like a dude and is on his horse. He's by a campfire. He's talking to some other soldier. They're like polishing their swords. They're like cooking some sort of food on the fire, and they're kind of pontificating or philosophically musings of like life and death and what does it mean to be a soldier and what does it mean to be what does it mean to like betray and love and loss and hate. Like, there's a lot of like philosophy. That's like 40% of Malazan scenes. But then but then you have over here you have the sentient walking lizard people who fly around in flying space castles that shoot at lasers and speak telepathically. Like the shit doesn't make any sense sometimes. It's like sometimes it's like like I just love how like there's like this is very much a medieval sort of technologically world. Like there's swords, shields, bows, and arrows. Like there's no guns. I mean, you can argue that like magic is sort of like their main force of battle, but like not everyone uses magic in this world. You have swords, shields, bows and arrows, horseback. That's the technology of this world. But then you also just have like flying sky castles controlled by sentient magic walking lizards. And it's like I love it. I just love shit like that. I don't know. It's kind of like sometimes I like when authors just kind of like put aside like what, this is just badass, and I kind of just want this in my book series. Like it's okay to have cool shit in your book series. Not everything has to be like super planned out and like super like I don't know like just cool shit, man. Just have cool shit in your book series. Um, so yeah, that they all fight out the Kachane Naruk. Ikariam, who is now on the throne of this Skykeep, I guess, resurrects this Skykeep, fights out the Mordekaichain Naruk. He has the Aaron's Eye because Featherwitch from Book 7 stole the Aaron's Eye, and now that Ikariam has like Featherwitch's soul, he has the Aaron's Eye, who he uses, which he then uses to make a Finist, which I guess becomes an Azov house and clogs up this warren that the Kachane Naruk were going through. That's my understanding of that whole sequence. I don't know, man. I'm still reading the book series. I don't know. Like, whatever. um, which then kind of leads me to the errant. So at the very end, you sort of have the errant who, and another thing about this whole book series, I guess, is sort of like, I don't know, like power and the abuse of power, and how some people like will cling on to power no matter what, even though it's like kind of past their time. And I think the errant is kind of like one of those figures that has like kind of over is past his time, right? There's a new master of the deck. The holes are kind of old, they're outused. We have the master of the deck now, deck of dragons. These are kind of like the newer things. Um, so yeah, it's but he wants his power back, and they have sort of this plan to kind of like end the world because they want to unleash this Ototero dragon, which Ototero is sort of like just the embodiment of, my understanding is, embodiment of chaos. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's going to destroy the world essentially. That's kind of all I need to know. I don't need, I don't know if I don't need to like get into all the details and nitty gritties of it. It's going to destroy the world. They're trying to destroy the world because they want to kill the other newer gods because they want to restore their power into the pantheon. That's my understanding of the situation. Man. Um. So that's kind of like a nutshell of the book. I kind of liked it. Not gonna lie. The snake storyline was very sad, depressing, but I mean that's kind of Malazan sometimes. I love the Change Them All. I love the payoff of the Change Them All. The Ghost storyline was very trippy, but I kind of liked how it kind of tied in with the Change Them All storyline, so that kind of gave it more brownie points for me, I guess. The Shake have never been my favorite storyline, to be honest. I kind of just like rolled my eyes every time I saw the Shake. I'm like, okay, like I don't know, they're just not that interesting to me. I'm interested to see the Test of the Ocean and seeing like what that fight might look like, but in general, I don't particularly find them very interesting as like characters or even as like a race of people. I guess I don't know. So yeah, I guess I will get into the Hatan chapter. So content warning. I'm going to be talking about sexual assault and sexual abuse, torture as well. Sexual torture. So if that's not something that you want to listen to or something that you just don't want to be a part of, I totally understand. So I'll be getting to that right now. So click away if you don't want to hear about that kind of stuff. So the Bargas are also a pretty hefty portion of this book series, of this, well, not this book, but of this book at least. Yeah, they're much bigger in book 3 and 7, but so we knew back from book 7 that the Bargas who wanted revenge on the Edor, they come to Letheris. The Edor have all been defeated by the Malazan, so now they're kind of left wandering without some sort of enemy. Tool, who we saw, a good friend, Tool. He's kind of the leader of the Bargas, but he's a Talani Mass, and people don't really like him. He's not really. He's like an other, right? That's another big theme of Malazan, whereas like distinguishing people as the other, as like the enemy and stuff like that, even if they're not part of like your cultural race. Again, parallels to our universe and our world. Um, so yeah, like they don't like Tool. They see him as kind of like a weak leader and stuff. Like he's not Bargas, that kind of stuff. And eventually, they end up betraying Tool. Tool ends up is just like, you know what, like just listen. They're like just kill me off and stuff like that. Just save yourselves and everything. Like, fine, whatever. So Tool dies, and because of that, you know, Hitan, who is his wife, who we met back in book 3 and everything, she's kind of like, vulnerable. She's kind of seen as like a betrayer because again, she married outside of a Bargas. Like Tool was a Talani Mas, or I guess an Imas at that point. Um, so she so what happens is she's and the thing this was foreshadowed all throughout the book. This act of called hobbling. Hobbling is when you cut off a woman, you cut off her feet, and you then systematically, essentially, gang rape her. So what happens is her legs or her feet are cut off, cauterized, so she stops bleeding, and then 2 dozen men rape her, and it is a tough scene to read through, man. It's a tough scene. It's not gratuitous in the sense that like it's not like overly purple language. It's not like reading smut. You know what I mean? Like you're not like Steven Erickson doesn't like um give like hoary details of each act and things like that. But it's tough because like I know Hitan from book 3. I know her from book 7. She's a tough fucking character. She's a tough woman. She's a fucking fighter. And I'm just thinking like, fight, come on, do it, fight back. And she like is defeated, and she is just repeatedly, and you kind of get like snippets of the chapter of like other Bargas are like, yeah, when's it my turn? Oh, I can't wait for it to be my turn. Oh, I'll be the first one to rape her, to use her. The thing is like they don't. I'm using the word rape, but they don't really use the word rape in the chat in the Bargas camp. They use the word use. They use her, and so that's kind of like where you are. That is your status as a hobbled woman. You are just to be used by the other men in the camp and stuff like that. And you might be wondering, like, Ed, what's the point of all this? Why read all this? Why read all about this kind of stuff? And look, like this isn't the first act of sexual violence. Like there's been sexual acts throughout this whole book, sexual violence throughout this whole series against men, against women, against children. Um, and you might be wondering like, what's like why I write about this, why I read about this, and I wanted to do more research, and I wanted to get more into understanding the author's point of view. And um, there's Tor.com did like a reread of this series where they kind of like outline each chapter, and I went to the this particular chapter in Dust and Dreams, and I scrolled down to read the comments. Dangerous because spoilers and stuff like that. But one of the comments was by Steven Erickson, who kind of just talked about why he wrote this scene. Because obviously, when this book first came out, there was a lot of criticism, a lot of pushback and stuff. And I'll link it in the description, but I won't go. It's a very long. It's a whole long comment. You can go read it for yourself. I would be careful of reading beyond Steven Erickson's comment because beyond that might get into like spoiler territories. For like the end of the book series and things like that. But so essentially, what Steven Erickson's point is that he's not writing escapist fantasy, and I feel like by book 9, that's evidently clear and obviously clear that this is not like escapism. Steven Erickson is writing. His world is a mirror image of our world. So just like there is rape, there is murder, corruption, betrayal, loss, grief in our world, so too does that exist in the Malazan world. And it's heart wrenching, and it hurts reading some of those scenes sometimes. And look, it's easy to kind of shrug off. Look, like I could have shrugged it off, like, well, Hitan's not real, Talk Younger's not real, Tavor's not real. These are just fictional characters. These aren't real. Like no, this never happened. These aren't real people. These aren't real actions. These aren't real things. And that's fine. Like you can totally just like sum that up, and yeah, this is a story. I'm reading a story, and I fully understand that. Um, but to the point of like what Steven Erickson is trying to get with, and this kind of gets into more of like series review, which I'll do once I kind of actually finish the series. But this kind of gets into like this is called it's called Malazan, but it's called Malazan Book of the Fallen. The Fallen. Who are the fallen? Who have we look at people like Tavor, people like Hatan, people like Stunny from Book 8, people like Apsalar, people like all the victims of war and famine and refugees and of children and war, and these are the fallen, and I think in so much in life it's so easy to kind of just shrug away and turn away, like, well, this makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, I don't want it makes me uncomfortable to read about other people's suffering or other people's trauma or whatever. And I get that, and that's totally fine. But I feel like I that is a place of privilege. That it is a place of privilege for me to kind of just turn away when there's children. There are children dying right now. There are children dying right now. There are children starving. There are people are being raped. People are being murdered. People are being in, wrongly incarcerated right now. Horrible shit happens in the world, and it doesn't stop because you turn away from it. Is my point, and I think that's a lot what this book series is trying to convey. You don't have to look at this stuff. You don't have to read this. You don't have to read any of these books, and that's fine. But just because you don't want to read about other people's trauma, other people's hardships, doesn't mean people don't experience that. They don't get to turn away from that. They don't get to just turn a blind eye to their trauma, to their hardship, to their lives. I get that privilege sometimes, and I feel like out of respect of the author and of these characters and all the other victims out there who go through this in real life, that's the least I can do. The least I can do is bear witness and witness their story and read about their story. And I know this is not a real story, but like the message is still there and the message is still clear. And that's how I feel about it. That's kind of how I think about it. I mean, I think the Hatan scene was done respectfully in the most respectful way. Um, yeah, I mean, it's still a gut wrenching scene. It's a horrible scene, and I think what later on it's like revealed, because another female Barghast is talking to another male Barghast, Ethereal, I forget her name, but she was talking with not Cathal, I don't know. There's so many different Barghast names, but my point is she was the male Barghast was like defending, like, well, the women are also complacent and hobbling. You guys, you found Hatan, you held her down, you cauterized. You guys are also complacent in this, and it was such a great scene because then she is like, "What choice do you give us? The men, created this world. You created this society. What choice do you give us? What like how many times does you see a woman get her eye beat, or you see a woman get a black eye, or you see a woman who gets her tongue cut out, or whatever, and you laugh, you know? Like, this is a society you've built. So of course I'm going to participate in a society because it's self-preservation at the end of the day. I had to look out and protect myself. And it's such like that's such like a such an amazing point. Um that yeah, like I understand that. And the women are seen as like, they kind of they stop after 2 dozen because, oh, Hatan's like, we have to like keep her ready and get her ready and stuff like that. And so you can kind of see like, oh wow, the women are also being complacent. But yeah, like when you live in like a society with the Barghast who only respond to betrayal and murder and violence, what option do you give people when like that's the only way to do it? That's the only way to do anything in this society. Well, yeah, no shit, the women are gonna be complicit because they're looking out for themselves too. Like, what do you want them to do? So I think that was a great way to kind of hammer into that point. um so yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy this book, man. I really enjoy this book. This video is getting very long, by the way, but I think I think this is a very good. I don't know if I can really rank this book, to be honest, because I feel like it's half of a book, but man, what a half! what I have. Not perfect by any means. I have my complaints with it, but like it's a good book. Dust of Dreams is a good book, and I'm so happy because I felt so almost burnt out by the end of Reaper's Gale that I was worried that like I might not be able to finish the series, man. Reaper's Gale did me dirty, man. Reaper's Gale did me dirty, but luckily, Toll the Hounds and Dust of Dreams, oddly enough, I really enjoy them. I know this might be very controversial because again, this book, I see this very lower on people's tier list, but I very much enjoyed it. The ending is honestly one of the best fucking endings in terms of action, right? In terms of this action, just it's there, and yeah, I'm so looking forward to seeing the finishing the Crippled God. It's crazy to think that I've been reading this book series for over a year now. I started this book series back in June of 2024. It is now, at the recording of this video, September of 2025. So it's been over a year since I've started reading this book series, and God, it's even just holding this book in my hand is almost surreal. It's crazy. I didn't think I would get to this point. It's always like whenever you're reading a book series, man, it's always kind of like like oh you start on book one and book two, and you're like, oh wow, I got like seven more books to read. I got five more books to read. I got four more, and then eventually you got one more book to read, and it's the last book, and that kind of raises some questions like where I want to take this channel, where I want where what I want to do next with all of this, like where do I see this going forward? And my answer is I still want to do. I'm still going to keep reading. I might chill on book series for right now, just because I feel like I need a little bit of a palate cleanser after reading Malazan. So I'll get into that a little bit more after I'm done with the Crippled God. But once I'm done with the Crippled God, I will do my Crippled God review. I'll probably do a series review as well of the whole series and like whether or not I think you should read Malazan or what did I think this book series was worth it. And I probably will make like a ranking video too, just kind of ranking all the books and everything and my personal order and favorite from worst to best, I guess. But after that, I still I probably read some. I do want to read Sun Eater. That's been a book series on my radar for a little bit. I like to kind of go between sci-fi and fantasy. Sun Eater is like 7 book series, so I kind of want to read something in the middle, maybe like a classic. I might read like a classic book or something like that. Just kind of like you know cleanse the old palate there for a second. Anyway, so that's my Dust of Dreams review. It's a great book. I don't know if I can really rank it in good faith, just because it is half of a book. But if I were to like, I don't know where I would put this relatively to other books, higher than Gardens of the Moon, higher than Reaper's Gale, probably somewhere between House of Chains and Dead House Gates. I think in the middle of there. I don't think it carries amount. I think it doesn't carry as much emotional weight as Dead House Gates does. But man, it is a great. This is a good book. It's a good book and a good like first half of the ending. I can't wait to read the ending. I can't wait to finish this book series, man. We're almost there, dude. We're almost there. All right. Well, until next time. I'll see you guys later.